Hi, I'm Chantal Braganza, editor of TVO.org's Shared Values coverage, which also happens to be the theme of this year's Short Doc contest. Shared values is shorthand for some big questions about differences, about belonging and beliefs. What do communities look like with everyone's full participation? And how do we inform people when society isn't being inclusive? All of the docs we'll see today are great examples of shared values. Today, our top 3 winners, as chosen by you, the voting public. The winners. First up is our 3rd place winner, Jana Hein. Welcome, Jana.
Hi.
In a moment, we'll talk about your doc, I Am a Doctor, about the disparity between the job market for Canadian medical school graduates and those who are foreign trained. But first, here's I'm a Doctor.
We had sort of, built up expectations of what it would be like to come to Canada, hope for him to be a doctor, and it was a little difficult, and it was certainly difficult, seeing him step down as doctor and thinking to myself that he's making that sacrifice for us kind of thing, that he's giving away all of that he built in Venezuela.
I Am a Doctor. Daniel has practiced medicine since 1985. He has 20 years of experience as a medical doctor in Venezuela. He and his family arrived in Canada in 2007.
Things were getting really tough in Caracas. I was working in an emergency hospital where we would just bring people with gunshots in. Probably 8,000 to 12,000 killings per year, having the same amount of population than Canada. One of the days we were in one of these kinds of protests with our flag, and we got oil, very hot oil thrown towards us. So it started to get really difficult, and we just decided to leave the country.
Daniel took all the tests required in order to apply for medical residency in Canada. He was never invited for an interview. He now works in private medical consulting.
There was a point where I was working 90 hours a week at Trillium Hospital, working every day, many nights a week in the emergency department. Some nurses would ask me, so you are a doctor in Venezuela? And I would say, no, I wasn't. I am a doctor back in Venezuela. And just because I'm here, that doesn't mean I'm not. And that's the other difficult part, that you have your role in an emergency setting here is not as a doctor, and then you have to fight with yourself not to behave like what you really are. Sometimes you have a wound right in front of you and you want to suture that wound and you want to, just move your hands, and you can. It's like having a cold beer right in front of you and you cannot even drink it. It's not just another career. There are many rewards that you receive as a doctor that are not money-wise rewards. It's just the expression of a patient that looks at you, the gratitude of a patient that looks at you, the way a patient improves after you intervene in his disease.
Canadian medical graduates have a 96% success rate of entering a specialty residency. International medical graduates have a 21% success rate. To enter family medicine in Ontario, the chances for an international medical graduate to enter a residency is less than 2%.
We were told is that Canada needs doctors. Canada needs doctors. Canada needs doctors. And in fact, Canada needs doctors because there's more than 5 million Canadians without a family doctor. The word that I missed probably is that I think I never heard Canada needs international doctors. All the medical associations tell you, well, it is your responsibility to do the research as deep as you can before you decide. The way the medical positions here for international doctors are marketed are way too different than what the reality is. When we arrived, I remember a friend of mine telling me, it's going to take you 2 years. And I said, oh man, 2 years. Well, it's been 9 years and here we are. I'm not licensed. I'm just doing something that I like to do now, that it's consulting in medicine. If you are coming to Canada, what's your goal? To come and live in Canada or to come and practice in Canada? Because this is totally different. So if you want to come to live in Canada, come. The doors are open for you. But if you want to come and practice to Canada, okay, the door is open this far, okay? Just because the system needs the door open to let know the people that the door is open. So that's not a very good welcome for doctors that have been successful in their country.
Before I was a little angry or a bit mad, bad feelings about why if he passed the test and he have the English and they need the doctors and we have a big Spanish community, and why they don't give two opportunity to do.
I believe in God a lot, and if I am where I am, it's because I was meant to be where I am.
Since his arrival in Canada 9 years ago, Daniel has been involved in healthcare through volunteer work. He has not been able to work as a doctor again. And joining me now is I Am a Doctor's filmmaker, Jana Hein. Welcome, Jana.
Hi.
So, what was it about Daniel Salas' story that made you want to make a doc about it?
I know Daniel from work. We used to work together, and he always told me that he used to be a doctor in Venezuela. And I was sort of like, what do you mean you used to be a doctor in Venezuela? Why are you not a doctor here? So we started talking, and I thought it was a very emotional story that had to be told because a lot of immigrants come here, hoping to work in their field.
The moments in the documentary where you hear from other members of his family, the effect that not only the move, but seeing, how Daniel couldn't practice medicine, the effect that that had on both him and them. Could you tell us a little bit more about that and his family?
He has 3 sons, and they were all in their teenage years when they came to Canada. So it was already extremely difficult to begin with because they didn't speak the language and they didn't have any friends here. And they had to start their life all over again, all based on the fact that Daniel was going to come here and be a doctor. So they had a hard time, adapting to the lifestyle and seeing his dad studying at home for 8 hours a day for all the tests and then not being able to follow through.
Do you have any updates on Daniel and his family now? Is Daniel still volunteering in medical consulting?
Yeah, he's still volunteering, and it's been 9 years now since they all came here. And he's not bitter, but I think he's still a tiny bit sad inside, that he can't be a doctor. But he made peace with it, and that's what we tried to show in the documentary, that, he's okay, but he's not able to follow his passion or follow his dream.
What does winning this contest mean?
It means a lot. I didn't grow up in Canada, but TVO has such a rich history and is really part of Ontario's heritage. And when I tell people that grew up in Canada that we were part of this contest, they're extremely impressed. So it's wonderful to be part of a channel that has such love for the genre.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for coming in, Jan. It's been great talking to you.
Thanks.
Next up, our second place documentary, A Different Way by filmmaker Felicity Jastrebo. Her documentary explores how Luke Anderson, living with quadriplegia for 13 years, confronts his fears to embrace dating and personal relationships again. Here is A Different Way.
Everybody really has their own quirks, right? And I think it exists in every relationship where there's education that's needed on how life works. Mine just happens to be a little more complicated because there's a few more layers.
A Different Way.
I'm a person with quadriplegia as a result of a spinal cord injury, and because of my injury, I now rely on a wheelchair to get around. I grew up as a kid playing sports, and mountain biking was my very favorite sport. I wanted to just ride my bike every day, so I did. I was riding with a good friend of mine, and we'd heard other riders talking about this 25-foot wide gap that you had to clear your bike over. So I did everything that I would normally do, and I remember cranking hard on the pedals, and the way that I like to put it is I left my life as soon as my bike left that takeoff platform because I didn't make the landing. I missed the transition by a couple of inches, so my front wheel hit the transition. I flew over the handlebars and landed head first on the ground and broke 2 vertebrae in my upper spine. And in that split second, I was introduced to a very different way of life. I was convinced that dating was not something that I would be able to do. I've always had a bit of a hesitation talking about my way of life because I was a little bit afraid of scaring somebody away. And at first, those feelings were hard to take and deal with. But about 2 or 3 years after my injury, a friend of a friend expressed interest. I thought that that was pretty cool, so I expressed interest back. But I think that interest came from the wrong place, and there weren't the right feelings attached to that relationship. So it ended. Learned a lot about myself during that time. I wasn't very confident, but I've slowly built that up, and I'm proud of who I am today. It highlighted that dating is possible. And I think just the way that I've taken on my new way of life, people are interested to know what that entails. I'm an open book, and there's a lot of questions that are going through the mind of whoever's sitting across the table. My life has very intimate moments that happen right off the bat. Right at the first date, I have found myself needing help with my jacket or my toque and scarf, gloves. So getting help with that involves being very close to whoever I might be meeting up with. It's a level of intimacy that doesn't happen during a typical first date. I know pretty quick if somebody is comfortable with that. There are some people out there that have no interest in dating someone that uses a wheelchair, and I totally get that. I think my 24-year-old self probably wouldn't have been all that interested. Disability or people that use wheelchairs were so far off my radar that the thought of being in that position would never have crossed my mind. So I guess I'm a people person, so I don't let that scare me away from a potential meetup. I see the world and the people in it as a library. You know, there's so many opportunities out there to connect with people, and we still think that dating and disability is this deep, dark cave that we shouldn't talk about because it's scary. It's not scary. It's just a different way to live.
And joining me now is filmmaker Felicity Jastrebo. Hi, Felicity. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So I understand that this documentary is your directorial debut.
Yes, it is. So it's the very first film that I've done. I did it as part of my school program, go to Sheridan College in Oakville. So we pitched these in the very first week of school, and and we were out there with a camera right away, and this is what we ended up with.
So Luke has been in the news before for a very different reason, for Stopgap. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about what Stopgap is?
Sure. So Stopgap is a nonprofit foundation, and what they do is they provide ramps for businesses all over Toronto, all over Canada. So what they do is they provide a specially designed ramp for your business that allows it to be accessible for people in wheelchairs as well as people with buggies and all sorts of stuff.
So what made you want to focus on this particular aspect of Luke's life, dating and romance?
He puts it really well in the documentary, and he says people don't like to talk about disability because oftentimes it makes them uncomfortable. So I thought it'd be really interesting to talk about dating and disability because it's not something that's popularly talked about on television or in books and stuff like that. So there's not a lot of positive representation. And Luke was just so open and comfortable sharing his own experiences with me. I thought he would make a really great subject.
Yeah, he definitely did. What impact would you say has the doc and winning this contest had on Luke?
A lot of people have reached out to both him and I wanting to share their own experiences with dating and disability. I think a lot of people have felt more comfortable talking about it, And having someone that's kind of like the face of it has been really, really great.
What impact has winning this contest had on your plans for the future for documentary making?
Well, it was a great vote of confidence. I'm very honored to have made it to the top 3 and to be a part of this and have the doc air on television. It's a great honor, and it definitely has motivated me. I just finished up a second documentary about police violence in the city of Toronto, so this was a great motivation to keep pushing through with that, to finish that. So, yeah.
Thank you for coming in today, Felicity. It was great talking to you.
Great, thanks for having me.
Lindsay Fitzgerald's first place documentary about employment follows Yin Brown, who is visually impaired, as she tries to secure a job. In a moment, we'll talk to Lindsay about her doc, but before that, here is our first place winner about employment. A short film about employment, featuring Yin Brown.
The problem with producing this video is that I myself won't be able to see this video and that it's not described. So I wouldn't even know what is being shown. The second concern is that, am I putting myself on display like a, oddity piece? And most people with disabilities really resent that.
What do you mean oddity piece?
Oh, look at this, look at her, look at how she walks down the street. I'm just walking down the street in a different way from other people, but I'm just walking down the street. I'm not your ape in a cage.
Yin Brown started to lose her sight in her early 20s due to a degenerative disease.
Tell me if you know what's happening in this one.
No.
You are picking out clothes for that interview you had in October?
So in order for me to even get ready for an interview, I have to be super organized in how I arrange my clothes, so I pick out the right clothes that actually match.
Are you pouring the coffee?
I really don't think this is related to job search. There should be some sensitivity in not putting us on a pedestal to say, wow, look at it, a blind person can pour hot water on her own. No, everybody can do it. I just do it differently. So this is a job alert that came in this morning. So it just has apply, but I don't want to apply yet, but where's the information for that? Graphic text box. Now, I don't even know what that means, graphic. Two things that hinders me, and I don't think I speak for every blind person. One is the information access on the internet. Tutor Dr. Vaughn. I'm thinking Vaughn, is this in Vaughn? The other one is getting to the place, right? If you are so lucky that you get an interview, a lot of people say, do I disclose? Do I disclose in my cover letter that I'm actually a person with a disability?
Good afternoon.
It's Yin here.
Hey Yin, come on in.
Thanks. If disclosing gives me a better chance, for example, for CNIB, they're looking for someone with lived experience or understanding of blindness. Oh, I disclose right away, right? Most people don't ask, so if they don't ask, I don't say. I find my way down there to the interview place, and that's when some of them are shocked. They're like, oh my goodness, what do I do? I can't see their faces, but you can just feel there's this silence,
In the last 2 months, Yin has had 6 job interviews for community development positions, none of which were successful.
But this crosswalk doesn't have one of those audible signals.
Like, if I were to travel on my own, nobody would be here to say you're not at the crosswalk yet.
Right.
So what I do, I have to kind of stick near to the curb, and then until I feel, is this if I go straight, will I hit the island or no?
No, there's no island on this street.
Oh, no island on this side.
Oh, you mean to the streetcar island? Oh, come with me. Come with me.
Where is
It's right over here.
here meaning?
It's not glamorizing, but it is remarkable to see how well human beings adapt.
And I would say carry that into the education system, carry that into the employment situation, where people say, it's wonderful this person can walk down the street, well, we can't really trust her with a job, right? It's wonderful that she can, make coffee for herself, but we can't trust her with a kitchen job. You're amazed at us, meaning me, how we can do this and that. But when it comes to, okay, put your money where your mouth is, no.
In Canada, adults with vision loss face an unemployment rate of nearly 70%, according to the last statistical report. And joining me now is Lindsay Fitzgerald. Congratulations, Lindsay. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much.
Yin Brown's story, what was it about her story and just her as a person that made you want to make a documentary about her?
I had known Yin for a while before making this short film, and it was the fact that over the course of our 3-year relationship, 2 of those years I think she spent either looking for a job, getting a contract position, or then continuing to look for a job. So every time I would check in once a month or whatever, and we would get a coffee, she was continuously going to interviews and getting the interview, but then not getting the job. So I started from there and just asked her if I could follow her through the whole process.
In the time since, has she found employment?
No, not paid employment. I think that there's another television network for people with disabilities that have invited her to be a host, but it's also voluntary, so she still has not found a job. And we didn't really know if the film would be, because she's such a strong character and her words are so strong, that it would be something that would help get her a job, or it would deter people from hiring her, having such a strong character and advocacy person in their newsroom. I think if I was an employer, then I would definitely hire her, but that's just me, so.
Yeah, that personality definitely comes through in the documentary. And there are a couple of really interesting filmmaking choices that you make to really put the audience in Yin's shoes. You want to tell us a little bit about those particular choices?
One of the riskier choices that I made, there were 2 of them. One was putting Yin in the edit suite with me to discuss the footage, and the tension that you feel there was real between me and her critiquing the choices that I was making, and then me making changes according to that. With certain decisions I was making to film her pouring coffee, for example, was a classic representation of people with disabilities that she just didn't agree with. And the second one was going to black when we're crossing the road, because that one I actually didn't film any images. I just recorded the audio and had a mic with me, and we just went on a walk. And over the course of that 20-minute walk, there were just a number of moments where all I could hear was what Yin was hearing, and it really made me aware of how terrifying it can be to be at a major intersection in Toronto, most of which do not have audible signals. And so I felt like if Yin wasn't going to be able to see this documentary, there needed to be something in it that people would experience what she felt, which is she still can't see the documentary, so people need to experience one of those scenes without being able to see it. So that made sense.
In her, since the documentary has been completed, as you mentioned, she hasn't seen the documentary, but has she had any comments about the results?
Yeah, she was shocked because this wasn't intended to be something that would be publicly broadcast across the province. We've had lots of good feedback. We've had some critiques. People in the disability community, I think, have been really happy with it. And that's because of the nature of me working closely with Yin for the editorial choices. But she continues to say that she sounds so gloomy in the documentary, and I just laugh at her and I said, well, it's not a puff piece, so yeah, you're gonna sound pissed off, and I think you should be pissed off, so. But in person, she's a very bubbly, candid, smiley, like joyful person to be around. So that's the part that's missing from the film, I think.
What about you? You know, getting the call that you'd won first prize for this contest. What was that like?
That was incredible. I honestly didn't expect to win because I looked at the other documentaries that were in the top 10 and they were wonderful, and I felt like mine was not as cheerful, put it that way. It was really shining light on a problem that I think needs to be better understood. I think for about a week it didn't really sink in that we had won the competition, and we still kind of giggle about it now.
What does winning the contest mean for your plans for the future, for your filmmaking?
Some of the risks that I took, some of the choices I made were worthwhile, and so it gives me the confidence to try and push the form and push it into a longer narrative.
Well, Lindsay, thank you again for coming in, and congratulations on winning first place in this year's Short Doc contest.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Thanks for having me, and thanks to TVO. Thanks.
Great. If you're interested in the contest, for inspiration, you can watch all of this year's winning films, the finalists, the semifinalists, and find out more about the contest at tvo.org/shortdoc. Thanks for watching.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit TVO.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.